This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your sunset safari. A rainy one at that, at least here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. It's more of a drizzle, but it's a
and welcome to this virtual safari this afternoon. Welcome. And we found ourselves on a rainy Zululand afternoon. And surprise, surprise, straight out of the lodge, we found this beautiful rock python, Southern African rock python, in this tree. And look how hard it is to spot. One of the guys that drove past here actually managed to spot it while he was driving in a moving car. It's an amazing spot, and the snake has just been sitting here probably all day sunning itself, and nobody's been able to see it since. Look at the beautiful markings on it. My name is Ross, and behind the camera today is Simon, and we're here live from and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. Wow, what a little surprise. It's not the kind of thing that you expect to see on a rainy day, or when it's slightly cooler. Snakes and most reptiles normally would be taking refuge from the cold weather. They like to expose themselves and sun themselves when it's hot. But this guy seems to maybe be enjoying the cool after such a hot day. And I don't think I've ever seen a snake with such a majestic view in the background either. It's normally, you see it in the grass or in the undergrowth, but look at the vastness of Phinda in the background of the snake. He's got himself a really nice perch. And interestingly, look how he's actually not coiled around the sort of that it's on. It's kind of zigzag, so it's lying flush. It makes it so much more hard to see. He's doing this on purpose. And it almost worked.
So we shall try this again. Good afternoon, everyone. We're on quarantine, and it's already happening. Huge herd of impala, and of course a giraffe just overseeing everything, making sure that quarantine is running smoothly and that there's no trouble. My name is Lauren, and I do have Davy on camera, and it's raining. I'm afraid it's that constant drizzle that we can't get rid of, but hopefully it will stay just that. Now, once again, we've not got much traverse. I have about 3 roads, but that's fine because it includes the hyena den, and today's a very special day, everyone. The hyena cubs, except Intimas, are all going to receive their names today. And for Junes, who we are calling Junebug at the moment, you are all going to get the opportunity to choose. So stay tuned. Hopefully the hyena den will be active a little bit later, and that's where we will spend our afternoon. Now, just an update, Tandy and Cub were found today on Torchwood, safe and well and happy. Unfortunately, we can't go there right now, but I know many of you appreciate the updates. And Miss Tlalamba was found on Cheetah Cut Line, very close to Central Junction. So leopards were everywhere this morning, which is good. It means that we can start following them again as soon as our signal gets fixed, as soon as superhero Marcel fixes everything. Look at that. What a beautiful two-shot. One of the larger, or the largest, ungulates. And then, of course, you have your impala. This impala herd, we've actually passed them every single day, and they're staying very, very tightly close, sort of tightly packed together around our camp. They're not venturing very far. They also know that the vegetation works against them. They also know that the weather works against them. And Seb and I actually spotted a very, very small little lamb for you the other day. The new lambs. I'm not sure if that's... Davi, do you see that tiny little lamb at the front there? Or maybe that's one of the older ones. But there's a huge difference now between the lambs that were dropped at the end of last year and the brand new lambs. Look at that. You
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before to get into the spot. There we go, there it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
We're still just sitting here enjoying this African rock python, and oh, that little bird almost flew right next to the python. Maybe he thought it was a branch. We would have got a funny surprise. But This python has lots of different common names. Some people call it a rock python, some people call it a African rock python, South African python, but it's one of the 2 African species that we have, and it's the biggest species of snake on the whole African continent. So this is actually a smaller individual. It looks like, I mean, it's not small by any means, but it can get much bigger. This snake looks like it's about 2 meters, but they can grow to 6 meters long. And they've been known to take prey the size of impala. But I think this snake, probably a younger snake, feeds on maybe things the size of rats and mice, maybe birds, kind of anything smaller than, I'd say, a scrub hare. It does look like it's got quite a small head, but its jaws actually are able to, they've got a small little hinge in the front of their jaw, and they can open their jaws exceptionally wide and consume prey that's actually bigger than their head, which is an amazing adaptation. And how they kill and how they kill their prey is they'll bite it and secure it with their fangs. So they'll strike it and then they'll wrap all their body around their prey and start to squeeze it. It's called constriction, and that crushes either the rib cage of whatever it's crushing, or it will just force all the air out of the animal's lungs and it will die of suffocation. So this snake, if you got bitten by it, wouldn't kill you, but it would, because it's got no venom, but it could leave a nasty bite because it's got rows and rows of hundreds of backward-facing fangs. And that's just for it to, when it strikes its prey, it'll latch on and it'll bite it, and it's very, very difficult for the prey to get loose because of those hundreds of backward-facing fangs. You see the snake's head, if you watch it for a moment, you might see its tongue flicking in and out of its mouth. And the tongue flicking out is actually it smelling what's around it. It's got lots of sensory smell, we call it pits on its nose, and it smells with its tongue. But Penelope, you're very right. It is unbelievable camouflage. I actually have no idea how somebody spotted that. And where it spends most of its time is on the ground. So you can imagine on soil and sand and in between rocks, that beautiful mottled black and white and brown on its skin would blend in exceptionally well with the ground as well, but also with bark like it's doing now. And they are very versatile snakes. They spend some time in trees. And I think what this snake might have been doing was maybe trying to see if there was a little bird with some eggs in the top of this tree. And maybe he's lying in wait for a bird to perch on that extended branch, and he would definitely be able to strike it. He's got a very quick strike and make a meal of it. But David has asked an interesting question. What would predate on a snake this size? David, there's quite a few animals that would kill a snake like this. As I said, it's not venomous, so it relies on its camouflage to protect itself. And there are lots of records of different birds killing a snake like this. Southern ground hornbills are renowned for eating snakes, and this would definitely be something that they would prey upon. I've seen an African rock python being eaten by a crocodile before, which was probably the most amazing experiences I've ever had in the bush. I've heard of leopards killing snakes, not eating, but killing. And there's lots of birds, there's a whole family of birds called snake eagles, which this was probably the limit of the size of snake that it could kill. And when it was younger, the snake would have been under pressure from lots more animals as well. So when they are born, they're probably the size of a ruler, and then lots of birds, lots of other snakes would be able to eat or catch and eat and swallow these snakes. But so this snake, once it's let's say it's a female and becomes of age to have its first clutch of eggs, will lay between 20 and 100 eggs and bury them in a burrow, and they will hatch and never see their mother. They'll be on their own from day one. So it is quite a hard life for a snake, which is why it has that beautiful camouflage. But the rain's starting to come down now. I wonder if the snake is going to think about moving, because probably you wouldn't ideally like to be out in the rain. There's no chance of catching any birds really in the rain, and it loses a lot of energy in the cold weather. It's almost like its battery dies when it gets cold. But we're going to send you for now off to Deirdre in Tswalu and see what she's found for you that side.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tswalu. I've been dying to do this for as long as the grass is so long at the moment in Tswalu, but you've got a beautiful view of the mountain range. I'm Deirdre, and on camera with me this afternoon is Morgan, and very toasty, 32 degrees, which is at least 90 Fahrenheit this afternoon. And we are going to head across and see if we're able to find a male lion for you this afternoon. That's our plan. It's awesome that you've already seen a python in a tree. Hopefully our male lion's not as camouflaged as the python. But we've got a beautiful grass here. I want to show you, probably if I hold it, you can actually see a nice ruby red color. This one is known as Melanus repens, which is red grass. Natal red top is its full name. But Melanus is referring to honey, the color of new honey. And repens in the surname means creeping, so it's a creeping type of grass. And interestingly enough, it turns white after it's been pollinated. But very, very pretty, and has a very high nutrient value for the animals that do like eating that. I don't mind eating this one either. This one's not too bad. A whole lot better than sour grass, that's for sure. And the monotonous larks are calling. It's still relatively hot, so we do anticipate to potentially find that male lion, or more than one, depends on who's together today, in the shade. I think everything is going to be in the shade. So we're going to send you back to that rock python while we carry on going to look for those male lions.
So we're just waiting with this python, and I just had a thought. Imagine if a bird sits on that branch next to it. I think we might see something interesting. And I think that's what this python is up that tree to do. There's no real reason why it would need to climb a tree other than to sometimes take refuge and hide, but that would be in a tree with a bit more leaves, and it normally coils up in the sort of the crook of a tree in the shade and hides itself in that way if it's trying to hide away. But the way this snake is sitting, camouflaged, extended body, sort of ready to strike, ready to sort of be agile enough to strike anything that lands on any part of that tree, I think it's definitely lying in wait and hunting. And that's how pythons do hunt. They choose a place, whether it's on the ground somewhere or next to a water hole, and they just wait. And they've got incredible patience. Sometimes they wait for days. Sometimes they even wait for weeks in the one position until some unfortunate animal wanders past them, and then they'll strike. And they can afford this patience because they don't need to eat every day. They don't need to even eat every month. If a python has a big meal, it can become dormant and digest its food for months and months and months. And this particular snake I saw at about 9 o'clock this morning. So it's been like this for hours. Jerome, you've asked, has Phinda got a healthy population of snakes? And yes, it definitely does. There's lots of diversity in snakes here at Phinda. Rock pythons are one of the more common ones that we see. And we also get black mambas, Mozambique spitting cobras, spotted bush snakes, vine snakes, stiletto snakes, purple gloss snakes we see often at night. And we've been seeing a lot more now because there's lots of food for them. And that's really what is the sort of deciding factor on whether there's lots of snakes in an area or not. It's whether there's enough food for them. And most snakes prey on smaller prey like frogs and rodents. Most snakes are of that side, where that's the kind of size of prey that they like. And on Phinda we've had a lot of rain at the moment. So there's lots of frogs around and about, so we've been seeing a lot of snakes that have become active and coming out and feeding. Snakes are able to actually sort of go dormant for the whole of winter. When there's not a lot of water, there's not a lot of food, they just hibernate in burrows often for the whole of winter, and this kind of time of the year they are seen much, much more. And pythons are only found in sort of the eastern hemisphere of the world, Africa and Asia and Australia. Australia actually has the most number of pythons of any country in the world. They've got 9 species. Imagine having 9 species of python. But we're going to send you back over to Tswalu now and see what they have found for you that side.
So you're back with us at Tswalu, and they're just so beautiful, these flowers at the moment. It's the matchstick mistletoe, and exactly as its name says, it does look a little bit like a matchstick, but it is a hemiparasite. So what that means is that it gets deposited. It has a very sticky seed, a nice little red seed that's very sticky, that once the birds have eaten it, the seeds get stuck to the side of their beak. They fly to somewhere and then they rub their beak on the branch, and then it manages to attach itself and steal nutrients from the tree. So it's stealing sort of the minerals and the water from the tree, but it's also, with its own green leaves, photosynthesizing for itself. But a really, really pretty flower, the matchstick mistletoe. And it's actually, its host tree, if Morgan zooms out a little bit, is a blackthorn, which is never a nice thing or tree to have an encounter with, because you can see those really sharp hooked thorns that really latch on to either skin or clothing. It's never a pleasant experience to have an encounter with a blackthorn tree. And they have already had their flowers this season, and most of them have already distributed some of their seed pods. I'm just going to slide off. I've got one here down at the bottom to show you. I'll put it, I'll just hold it up here. So you can see quite a nice papery seed pod with the seed inside. So predominantly distributed by the wind. It's very light in weight, and as soon as the seed pod is dried out, the edge will split and then expose those seeds, and they'll end up being distributed either on the wind, so fall down to the ground, or get carried on that little paper to somewhere and go and get distributed somewhere else. Let's see if there's any. Normally the mistletoes have got lots of ants and all sorts of insects on it. I don't see anything here. Ooh, but of course it's in the middle there. There's a beautiful brightly colored beetle, but this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to attempt to tackle the tree with the Leatherman. I'll show you now, Morgan, if I can get him to come out. He's on this main stem, but I don't think... Careful, careful. This could hurt. I'm going to pull this one away. I don't know if you can see him there on that main stem in the sunlight. One of those beautiful sort of, I think it's a shield beetle. Can you see him there? No, down here. He's moving. Oh, no. He's not a cooperative beetle, but he is sort of all the metallic colors. He's orange, green, blue. Whoops, nearly dropped the radio. That wouldn't have helped, but I can't get him to come round. There's a very nice other flower. I'm going to pick you a piece because it's too close to the vehicle for Morgan to zoom in. But this one is known as a Gigeria. Beautiful yellow flowers, also very, very prominent at the moment all over the place. And that bright yellow coloration on the flowers is attracting all the insects, predominantly flies at this stage. It almost looks very similar to a daisy. So don't forget, if you've got any questions, to write your questions #WildEarth, and then you must put at FC in the front of your question if you've got any questions for us. Okay, put this one back. See what else I've got. No, nothing at the moment. Oh, maybe this one. This one's quite pretty. So we've got, I almost want to say it's herringbone grass, but you can, Morgan, yeah, I've got a herringbone grass here, so different as and when just sort of a herringbone pattern, I suppose. Not as nice tasting as that red grass, for sure. But here, nonetheless, I've got one of those beetles. If I can convince him to come with me, we'll just pluck the grass stalk, and then I'm going to bring him closer. Hold on. Stay here. I'm going to bring him all the way to the vehicle, and I'm going to put him down there. But look how gorgeous blue that beetle is. I think they call these shield bugs. I can be mistaken, but we can't remember everything, but he's just beautiful to have a look at. So you're managing him there. Don't run away now. No, don't run away. He didn't, he was afraid of his debut for TV. Maybe, yes, no? Okay, well, he'll hop off at some point. We'll carry on heading down the road on our mission to find some lions and see what other things are flowering. So, just a really beautiful afternoon. There is some cloud cover forming a little bit on that eastern horizon. So that big cauliflower-shaped one, I nearly tripped over my own words there, has the potential for rain, but it still needs to develop a little bit more. So with this heat over the next day or two, there's definitely going to be a lot of moisture in the air that will bring us maybe some more rain. We never mind, in the Kalahari, we'll get more rain, we'll take it. So, yeah, we're going to carry on and see if we can get a little bit closer to those male lions.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Is it just pretended to be dead? Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I hold this back? That is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
So from blue iridescent shield bugs to some more iridescence here on this snake. The sun has just come out from behind a small cloud, well actually quite a big cloud, and now you can actually see the colors on the snake just popping that a little bit more. I don't know if you can see clearly, but sometimes when a snake starts to, when its skin is very close to being shed, it starts to go slightly opaque and you start to see these iridescent colors in it. But I don't think the snake, I think he looks like he's got some very fresh skin. Don't think he's going to shed it soon, so it's more the actual colors of his skin that you see rather than the iridescence. But snakes actually shed their skin periodically. Because as they grow, their skin doesn't stretch like ours. It's very sort of scale-like, and it's quite brittle actually. So as they grow, they have to shed their skin, which they'll do by just rub. The skin will start to fray and start peeling off, almost like when you peel after being sunburnt, and then they'll start to rub their skin against sort of a hard abrasive surface like a rock or some tough bark, and then they'll actually peel their skin off like a banana inside out, and underneath will be a fresh layer of skin. And there's actually a little bird alarm calling now. Wonder what it might have seen. I think it's actually seen that snake. It was on the small bush next to this tree, and it was going crazy at the snake. And now it's just flown away. But Carol, yes, it's an incredible pattern on the snake, and it's so complex. So many little dots and stripes and colors. It's almost like a kaleidoscope of colors, and that's just what helps to break up its shape. So if it's lying on the floor or against this little tree trunk that it's on now, those sort of mottles and stripes and patterns break the shape up, so you can't actually see where the snake ends and where the bark begins, and that's how it's camouflaging himself. But it's also quite beautiful to see. And now as the sun is coming out, the snake will start to recharge. It'll start to absorb energy from the sun. It's cold-blooded, so it needs to warm itself up and warm its cells up from the heat of from the sun, rather than from its own cellular metabolisms, and it relies completely on sunlight for energy. So maybe after it's lying in the sun now for a bit this afternoon, it'll have enough energy to move. But for now, it looks like it's very relaxed, not moving anytime soon. So Charlie, you've asked quite an interesting question. Do people poach snakes for their skin? And I'm 100% sure that they do, because snake skin is, especially a python, I've seen skin for sale in places, in upmarket shops, from upmarket shops to roadside stalls in Africa. But I'm not sure how large scale the poaching is. I think it might be very, very, very small scale. It might even be just people, unfortunately, that find snakes in their houses or gardens that end up killing them because they're frightened of them, which is tragic. But it's actually, probably the only way that people would poach, because in actual fact, it's very, very difficult to find these things. There's no real way of tracking them. You have to just come across them. And I don't think it's a huge poaching syndicate that happens, but people definitely kill them, and they use their skin for wallets and sort of other leather products and things like that. Snakes do have the stigma around them that they're dangerous and sort of undesirable creatures to have around, but they're actually not. A lot of them aren't dangerous. This python is completely unvenomous, non-venomous, should I say. Doesn't hunt people. It's actually very scared of people, like most snakes are. And to have snakes around is actually fantastic, because rats and frogs that you might not like to have around your home so much would be sort of controlled with the presence of a snake around. So, snakes can actually be of good help to the environment and the ecosystem. Keep the rat population under control. Talia, you've asked how long this rock python is. I'd say it's about probably the length of me, about 2 meters. But you can see it's quite thin. It is a young snake, relatively young compared to how long they can get. I would hate to guess how old the snake is, because I think it's very difficult to age pythons, but it's definitely older than about 5 or 6 years, and they can live for a very, very long time, and they can get much, much longer and much more thick than this around their center. So I think the biggest snake that's ever been recorded, or the longest python, is 6 meters. And so most of the big ones that you see around, well, that I've seen, are normally about just over 4 meters. And that's considered a really, really big snake. So Hen, you've asked, will this snake move backwards to come down the tree? And I think what it will do, because snakes have such incredible muscles along the whole length of their body, it'll probably pick itself up from its center and just pivot from about around the center of its body and go straight down the tree. So it won't actually reverse backwards, but it'll just pick itself up. Its head will drop it down into the tree, and then it will go forwards down the tree. Very, very agile. There's actually sort of some snakes, there's records of them standing up, rearing themselves off the ground with less than half of their body actually touching the ground. So more of the snake is off of the ground than is on the ground, which, if you think about it, is incredible strength. So, Anushka, you've asked what's the biggest prey that the snake could go for. This particular snake, being only about 2 meters and having quite a smallish head, would be limited by the size of its head as to what it would be able to consume. It'll eat anything that it can fit into its jaws. And its jaws actually unhinge at the bottom center, so they split. The bottom jaw splits open and it can fit prey in its mouth much bigger than its head. But I think this particular snake could probably, the biggest it could probably fit in would be a rabbit or a scrub hare or something like that. Anything bigger than that I don't think it would be able to deal with. But bigger pythons are able to, well, there's been records of them killing and eating adult impala. So yeah, the size of like a small goat, or a big goat actually. There's been contents of an impala found in pythons before, and actually quite morbidly actually been people that have been eaten by pythons before, big pythons. So that's only in extreme cases. But wow, the sun is really coming out now, and it's bathing the snake in light. You can see the bright green bushes in the background of it now, and all the birds are starting to chirp again as the sun comes out. So I think maybe the weather's on our side this afternoon. Tanya, you've asked us what snake tracks look like, and that's a very interesting question because there's lots of different ways in which snakes move, so their tracks can look quite different from species to species. This python moves in what we call rectilinear motion, so it sort of walks in a straight line on its ribs. So its track looks like just a straight line in the grass, in the sort of soil. And it only really will show up in very loose, sandy soil. But it looks like someone's just dragged something across the road. Because normally you see them crossing the road, the snake tracks. But there are other snakes that actually wind. I'm sure you've seen snakes that they wind like in an S shape. They look very different. That's a more weaving S shape across the road, with sand that's pushed up in little piles at the end of each S. And then there's actually snakes that sort of walk their coils like in an S shape, and they walk their coils forward. Some of them are known, you might have seen in documentaries or somewhere else, pictures of snakes called sidewinders. They do that. And there's lots of different ways in which snakes achieve motion. But this snake is just a slow-moving, straight line. And that's probably the most energy efficient for it to get across the bush, because they do get very, very heavy. So they use that method to conserve energy. They don't need to move very fast at all most of the time. So they're happy just to slither slowly across the floor. But we are going to maybe spend a few more minutes with the snake and perhaps carry on. But we're going to send you now across to Tswalu.
So back to some more grasses at Tswalu. We have to acknowledge this beautiful, beautiful one. It's called Bushman's Silky Grass. And just a really, really nice grass. This one is one of the top favorites for the animals at the moment. It's one of the ones that they'll select first before eating things like that sour grass, which is this one over here, is the sour grass. The sour grass actually tends to get like a sticky liquid all across the stem and almost burns the legs. If we walk through it for really long lengths of time, it almost burns your legs. And then also for the animals, it can actually cause sort of like ulcers around their lips if they eat too much of that when it goes into inflorescence form. And then we also just got a really beautiful patch of these little pink flowers. I don't know, Morgan can find whichever one is close enough for the camera. But they're called an indigofera, an indigo referring to a sort of a purple coloration or indigo, the color indigo. But the way that they get it out of the plants, they use it as a dye, but apparently it's soaking the leaves in water, and then it goes through a fermentation process, and it sounds like quite a complicated process to actually get that purple coloration from this. But it is one of the plants that will give a purple dye. Then there is another grass here, which is, I think it's a tassel 3-orn, or just one of those giant 3-orns. It's got a seed with 3 sort of things and a spike on the end. And then as the animals move past, that will stick into the hair in clumps, or they'll just knock it off and it will get planted from there, or it will land in a nice ideal spot and be able to regerminate from there at a later time. I'm just trying to see what else is around. So it is really, really hot today. We're struggling to actually find animals because it is so hot. We haven't even seen anything. The gemsbok that we did see is also under the tree. So now when a gemsbok or an oryx is under a tree, you must know that it's an incredibly hot day in the Kalahari. But just beautiful to watch that sort of waving, silky grass. Just a really, really nice, at least with this little bit of a breeze, it does drop the temperature a little bit. Let's see, there's some other plants on this side close to us here to see if there's anything in this. This is a pretty little white flower, but I don't know what that one is. Well, have a look at this one. I don't know what this one is, but I'm just referring to the seeds. I'm going to show you with the tip of the radio there to show you the seeds. And that's where one of the guys that actually developed Velcro found the idea for Velcro, is because looking at one of these seeds under the microscope, they've actually got a hook. And you walk past that as an animal with lots of hair, it hooks into their hair and also gets distributed by the animal. Those are definitely not nice in socks. They're quite difficult to get out of, and just try and get rid of them out of your socks. You do tend to leave some of those sharp barbs behind. Between them and carrot seed grass and 3-awn grass, there's some grasses that make it really difficult to walk out in the bush in the summer season. So we're going to leave the grasses and we're going to send you back to Pinder, who's got some birds.
So from Kalahari grasses to some Zululand grasses here, we are watching a bunch of little yellow birds busy feeding on some grass seeds here. Just in the short grass. These are yellow-fronted canaries. Amazing. Such beautiful little birds. And you see what they're doing? They're actually standing or perching on the stalks and plucking little grass seeds off of what we call the inflorescence, the top part of the grass. There's lots of them, lots of little beautiful birds. Look at their black and white and yellow stripes that go through their eyes. They almost look like a little superhero with that mask. And they just dip into the grass and then they dip out, very, very actively feeding. So at the moment, just to let you all know, we're having heavy rain all over on all of our other locations and some technical issues at Djuma. So we may have to spend quite a bit more time on Pinder today until the weather clears up that side and we sort out the technical issues. But for now, we're really enjoying these little birds. And these are yellow-fronted canaries. They found quite widespread across South Africa. You might be able to see them at Djuma and on Ngala as well. But here at Pinder, we've got an amazingly special little bird which almost looks exactly the same as these yellow-fronted canaries, which is only found in this little tiny corner of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. It's called a lemon-breasted canary. I know it's a very similar sounding name for a very similar looking bird, but this bird, the lemon-breasted canary that I'm talking about, is extremely specialized for this area because it only nests in the fronds of a certain palm tree that lives here or grows here called the lala palm. And it's got this amazing relationship with this palm tree which doesn't allow it to live anywhere else. So hopefully, maybe we'll be able to see the other species of canary sometime on our drive this afternoon. Maybe if we see some palm trees, we'll have a look to see if there's any lemon-breasted canaries flying around them, because it is breeding season at the moment for them, and they are starting to make their little nests in the frond of a palm. But I'm not sure if you can hear all of this beautiful bird song. It's all these canaries that you can hear. And canaries, I mean, you know, the term sing like a canary means that someone can sing very well, because canaries have the most beautiful song. It's just so true. If you listen to these birds just singing to each other, communicating. Yeah, very, very soft probably coming through on the mic. Maybe someone will start to sing with a bit more gusto while we're here. But I'm just going to show you in my bird book what this lemon-breasted canary actually looks like, just so you have an idea. So the yellow-fronted canary is this little one, and the picture really doesn't do it justice, but this little bird is the lemon-breasted canary. It looks like even more angry than the yellow-fronted canary. But there, you can see how it makes its nest in the frond of that palm tree. And these palm trees are only found, if you have a look at the distribution of this bird, only in certain little spots on the east coast of Mozambique and a tiny little northern portion of KZN. So extremely, extremely special bird to see. If you're into bird watching, and I know lots of people are avid bird watchers that watch this show, if you ever do come to Punda, please ask your guide to find you a lemon-breasted canary, because you won't find that anywhere else. So Sinak, you've asked what's the difference between a seed eater and a canary. And for those of you that aren't sure, a seed eater is actually a species of bird. It's not just a group of birds that eat seeds. There is a family of birds called seed eaters, and they look very similar to canaries. They're very, very closely related, and I'm not sure of actually what separates them. I think it's just a small difference in genetics. They probably are very closely related. They've got the same seed-eating bill, which is a very blunt, very strong bill, which is designed for cracking open the husk of a seed and eating what's inside. And they're both the same size, and they feed on the same grasses and other seeds. So yeah, I'm actually not too sure what exactly the genetic difference is, but there isn't much of a difference at all. These little birds, there's actually quite a few flowers in amongst this grass as well, and they're just flitting from one little patch of grass into a patch of flowers. It looks like they're having great fun. I know they are very seriously feeding now, and it's not about fun at all what they're doing, but they look like they're having a great time. And very agile little flyers. Look how they almost hover above the grass sometimes as they sort of perch on that flimsy little stem and pick up little seeds. Amazing. Absolutely loved watching these little birds. But we're going to send you now back across to Tswalu and see what they have found that side.
So we found a pretty flower. I like flowers. This one here, I'll just get the grass out the way, and we'll talk about that one just now. There's a beautiful flower. Most of you viewers should know what this one is by now. This is a wild foxglove. If I crush it in my hands and smell it, they actually have quite a pungent smell. They're not the most nice or the nicest smelling of flowers. Or the butterfly didn't seem to mind. But you see these little stripes on the flowers, I've spoken about it a few times, but they're actually almost a runway for the insects. So insects can see in UV light, and a lot of the time those shine up under UV light, and then it indicates to the insect if they go up that tube, they're going to get the nectar reward. And then on the top, this side here, so the insect goes in, the pollen will then get touched onto the back. So bumblebees, carpenter bees, you can see it's a nice size shape. Can fit quite a large fat little insect up there, and then get the pollen on the back, and then they'll go to and from multiple different foxgloves. I've grabbed a grass here, but I'm going to take this one out. You can actually, if Morgan zooms in onto the seeds, that one's also a nasty one that sticks into your socks. That one I think is called a sandquick, is its common name. Some of them have the really, really long scientific names, so this one's definitely got one of those. I also see over here, so that's a foxglove, and then you have a different one that also comes up like this. He's been well eaten. Is actually known similar type of flower. This one hasn't fully developed yet, but this is a wild sesame, and there's actually loads and loads of ants almost at every node of the leaf. So there must be some kind of a reward. It does look almost like there's a gland on the base of the leaf, and that would then potentially have some kind of a nectar reward for the ants, and then the ants will be moving up and down, servicing that plant somehow. I don't know much about it, but I can definitely see that there's a gland at the base of the leaf, and each one of the ants is definitely going to and from those glands. Sometimes that the sort of sweet reward for the ants allows them to actually keep other insects off the plant, which maybe the plant finds as an undesirable at that point. We're also in a patch of nice eland beans. That's this one here with all these very, very soft leaves, but I'm trying to see if I can see an actual eland bean. Nice big flat seed pods, not necessarily the most palatable, so not chosen by animals to eat. I think I heard Wesley, or Leslie, one of the two, asking a question, do we have any carnivorous plants on Tswalu? The only one that I can think of that we might find in areas where there's like a seep line or there's some water would be one they call a sundew, a Drosera, which is a tiny, it's actually, they don't get very big, and they're almost like a Venus flytrap, if I had to say. Then they have leaves with little liquid droplets on that can close for flowers, but that's the only one that I could think would possibly occur here, but I'm not actually 100% sure. But it would have to be in an area where there's a constant seep or a constant area of water. That's where the sundews like to occur. But there's no others that I can think of that. You really tend to find a lot of those carnivorous plants in the jungles. Then they have either the pitfall trap, and the ant or the insect falls in, and then there's like a trigger mechanism on the bottom, and they're able to close quite quickly. I'm over my words there. Just see, so we almost Steph is asking, does the wild foxglove have any medicinal properties? I'm sure it probably does. I've got a flower book here. I can quickly have a look for you. I just put it back in my box. While I look for that, I can put a little lavender feverberry down there for Morgan to show you. And I'll quickly check up on the foxglove. So this lavender feverberry is a plant that we find. It's a tree that we found on the base of the mountains. We're not too far. There was actually some on the other side there, all the shiny ones. But if I crush it, it has a very clear lavender smell. And then you can see the back of the leaf has actually got lots of white. If I crush that leaf, it gets like a fine little powder, which in in the one culture that I know of, the Shangaan culture, the ladies used to crush that powder and spread it over their faces as like a glitter. So, I mean, eye glitter was invented by the locals a very, very long time ago. And they use that as a sort of an adornment, and it makes them shine from far. So a nice lavender fever berry. I'm still looking for the foxglove. Of course, there's too many different names for it. Does anyone else know of any medicinal uses? You can type in the bottom. Or, oh, you know why? Because I'm trying to find it in the... For a moment there, I forgot how to spell. Why? It's not even under there. I am having a moment that I cannot find. Aha. Ceratotheca triloba is its fancy name. Tri meaning 3, loba meaning lobes. On that actual, we can come back to the plant, the foxglove. So, triloba meaning 3 lobes. It doesn't say there's any medicinal uses at all in my book. So I'm sure if we checked in other flower books, but definitely not in this one. So at this stage, according to the book of flowering plants of the Southern Kalahari, no medicinal uses. I just know it's a very, very stinky plant if you touch it. Let's head on some more and see what else. We'll just drive, head on down the road. Can have a nice lavender smell. Now this one does have a medicinal use. The lavender fever berry, exactly as it suggests, would be used.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The cock's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest. There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
This is the first leucistic zebra I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, here comes a lion. Run, little guy. Go on.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it?
Has it just pretended to be dead? That is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me. It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live on the Chobe River? It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Look at that little zebra about to be born. There's the head. Oh, you clever mare. Well done.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
welcome back to Beyond Pinda, and we found ourselves just a beautiful herd of 4 or 5 giraffe, but scattered quite far apart on this very, very, very green hillside, just slowly feeding into the afternoon. I just want to apologize to all the viewers for the technical difficulties that we're having at the moment. We are trying to sort them out as soon as technically possible. Look how low this giraffe has to bend to eat that small tree. I think it must be a tree that it particularly enjoys for it to feel like it needs to bend so low. I mean, you can see there's a tree on the right that's probably at a much better height for it to feed at, but it's chosen specifically to feed on that small bush. And giraffes definitely have favorite foods, so they have specific trees that they enjoy eating because they are much more nutritious than certain other trees. And I've got a suspicion that this tree that it's eating from is a buffalo thorn, which is a particular favorite of theirs. Relishing those beautiful lime green leaves, new growth, which tastes much more better than leaves that have been sitting on the tree for a while. Much more new and succulent, and lots of moisture inside, so it tastes incredible for those giraffes. It's also a tree with particularly sharp, vicious thorns. So the fact that they actually choose to eat from that tree is made all the more amazing because of those thorns. They also have very tough lips, which helps them do that. Tough lips and tough tongues, which enables them to eat from thorny trees. But if you've seen the thorn of a buffalo thorn, it's extremely sharp and nasty. It's got backward-facing thorns that really can rip into your skin. So rather that giraffe than me, for sure. Now it's chosen another species of tree that's a little bit more of the correct height for it to feed at. Giraffes, I'm sure most of you know, are the tallest land mammal. In fact, the tallest land animal, not just mammal. There's no other animal that walks this earth that's taller than a giraffe. And its design is, why it's so tall is completely and only to eat from trees, where other animals cannot. So they've evolved to capitalize on a level of vegetation that no other animal can feed at. So for that reason, they've been able to be very, very successful. No one else eats those leaves, so they've got more food. Look how that whole bush is shaking. That whole little tree is rocking back and forth while that giraffe tugs at it, trying to stick its head deep into the canopy to get that foliage that hasn't yet been browsed by other giraffes. So Stacy, you've asked the question, how tall do giraffes get? And so there's different species of giraffes, subspecies, but they're all roughly the same height. A big male giraffe will be maximum 6 meters. Some of them, I'm sure there's been records of very big giraffes exceeding that height. But 6 meters is kind of the average tallest height that you can get, and females will be just a little bit shorter than that, maybe between 4.5 and 6 meters. It's almost 3 times the size of a tall man, which is incredibly tall. The species of, or the subspecies of giraffe that we get on and beyond Pinda is the southern giraffe, and they kind of stretch throughout South Africa into Zimbabwe, Botswana, and parts of Mozambique. But there's 5 other subspecies that you do get, but only in Africa. Giraffe are confined to the African continent. Look how their tails just keep swishing, flicking flies off of their back. So you can actually see on this giraffe that's in camera now, do you see it's got like a black sort of saddle on the middle of its back? And that's actually from, it's not part of its fur, it's just dirt, it's mud that has been caked onto its fur by its tail, and it's sort of tail fur that flicks onto its back because it flicks its tail constantly all day and all night to get rid of flies. And sometimes when it's very wet or dewy or after rain, that tail will actually flick little bits of mud onto its back. And after swatting for so long every day, sort of twice every 10 seconds every day, they start to get that black color. I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a few zebra that have moved from the right to the left into our giraffe herd. They're feeding very peacefully in amongst these giraffes. The zebra actually are feeding from a different part of the vegetation. They're feeding from the grass, just like our yellow-fronted canaries, were feeding on earlier. They're grazing this beautiful lush green grass that's grown up after the rain. And wow, Pinda's had a lot of rain in the last month or two, probably more than we've had in the last 7 or 8 years. We are just so ecstatic about the amount of rain we've had. The dams and waterholes and rivers are full. The animals are happy because there's so much food around for them and so much water available for them in little puddles and streams and depressions, which for years and years and years hasn't been the case. So Pinda is really in a good place. The bush is very, very healthy. So Elizabeth has asked, do lions actively hunt giraffe? And the answer is yes. Lions do hunt giraffe, but I think it's very different in different parts of the world. Different lions sort of populations feed on giraffes much more than others. So in the Kruger Park, I know for a fact that lions in that area love to eat giraffe because they are typically in much bigger prides. There's a lot of lions or the average number of lions per pride is bigger, and that's what they need to kill giraffe. So bigger prides of lions definitely have a good chance of killing giraffes. They'll usually focus or attempt to kill smaller giraffes in a herd. They wouldn't go for the bigger adult giraffes, but if there was a youngster around, that's what they would choose to eat. And this is because bigger prides of lions have a lot more mouths to feed. So as there's a larger number of lions in a pride, so they have to start setting their sights on larger animals to feed the whole pride. Otherwise, they just expend so much more energy. Imagine a pride of 20 lions. If they only ate impala, they'd have to kill about 3 or 4 impala per day, which is an incredible amount of effort. Whereas if that same pride just killed a buffalo or a giraffe, they would have food for the entire pride for 3 days, and it's much more energy effective. But on Pinda, our lions, or the prides that are at the moment making Phinda their home, are much smaller because there's such an abundance of game. So they are typically 5 or 6 to a pride here on Phinda, and so they wouldn't bother trying to attempt to hunt a giraffe, because killing a nyala or an impala or even a small zebra would suffice for them as a meal for at least 2 or 3 days. So it's just not necessary for them. And it's not worth them putting themselves through that risk, because as they attempt to kill an animal that's a lot bigger, so the danger increases, because giraffe can pose a serious threat to a lion. If a lion had to be kicked by a giraffe, it could be very, very badly wounded or even die. So they only really hunt giraffes when it's absolutely necessary, but they definitely can. I'm going to try and reposition for you, because we just lost these giraffes over this crest. Here's old number 58 starting up slowly in the rainy weather. I think we've got a view of them through there. Let's try and see if you can see them. There you are. I hope the signal's still good. But they're still very slowly moving from tree to tree, eating the best parts of each tree. Look how white that fur is behind their ear. So we are going to probably leave the giraffes and see if we can find something else exciting for us to see this afternoon. And while we do, we're going to send you off to Tswalu and see what they have found for you there.
That little oakie in the middle, he's in there, in the hole. That's quite cute. See him there? Yeah. Because it's like a... Yeah, of course he is. Okay, well, my radio still says across, so I think we must bail. So we're apologising for some of the technical difficulties today, but you're back with us at Tswalu. And there we have an Egyptian goose. No, don't fly away now just because we're putting you on TV. There, so Egyptian goose in Afrikaans called a kol gans, and a kol is a dot, and you can quite clearly now see the dot on the lower half of the chest, and a gans would be a goose. But also an Egyptian goose because of the very elaborate sort of decorative wattle or ring around the eye. So Egyptian geese found right throughout Africa all the way up into Egypt. So Egyptian goose referring to the elaborate eye decoration that the pharaohs would have used many years ago. So Egyptian goose. And then just to the left of him, the other way, other left, Morgan, yeah, that one, yeah. There was a blacksmith lapwing. I don't know, is he still there? He's quite far away. So, yeah, blacksmith lapwing. They're also commonly found at the edges of the water. Often blacksmith because of the sound that they make. So if they're constantly calling it chink, 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 almost as if a blacksmith would be hitting a piece of iron on an anvil. He's talking now, but it's difficult. So he'll sort of patrol around along the edge and sometimes partially into the water to look for lots of different aquatic insects. And all the different birds around the waterholes, very often if they've got different lengths of legs, can go deeper into the water or not. They've got little chicks. Just keep carrying on to the right. In that grassy patch, there's looks like one of the other adults and at least 2, maybe 3 chicks moving around. They're already getting their sort of blacksmith lapwing colours, the sort of the white and the grey. Have you got them there? Yeah. Just keep going. I'm just trying to see. They're there in that patch. Yeah, there we go. That's one of them. There's at least 3 little chicks there with the adults, and they'd be very, very defensive and very protective over those chicks. They'll take on monitor lizards, they'll take on even elephants, especially if they've got the eggs on the edge of the water. They'll stand their ground and make an elephant move around them if he's too close to their nest. They just hold their wings up and just make a whole lot of noise. So the chicks will grow relatively quickly. They also hatch as precocial, so with a sort of down covering, and pretty much from the time that their eyes are open, they're mobile, and they're following the mother along the edge, finding food. She'll show them initially what they can eat, and then they're off on their own, feeding themselves. There's, if we go over to this brown patch over here, Morgan, we come around this side, there's, on the top is a laughing dove, and slightly below on the patch of sand is this way, more this patch here. Yeah, that one. So inside there's there we go. So laughing dove, it is a laughing dove, looks like a laughing dove with binoculars, yeah. Laughing dove, and then just below a nice comparison to a namakwa dove. You can actually see the size difference there between the two. There we go, joined by another laughing dove. So the sort of the more pinky blue ones that don't really have a collar around the back of their neck. And then that laughing dove below, the namakwa dove below with a really long tail, small little body, not really moving too much at this stage. And we can come around to these wattled starlings all the way to the tree. They're making a racket, so they're the ones that you can hear making a large noise. They're coming in, so in and out at the moment, a group of wattled starlings. So they'll go down to the water if it's hot, like it is today. They'll plunge bath. So Celtic is asking the question, when do the migrant birds start heading north? So if you look at most of the cuckoos and some of the warblers, they tend to start heading north around March. March, April, and that's when you start getting the change in the seasons where your daylight is getting shorter, your temperatures are changing. So literally their cue is the length of day and night. And then those birds that, they've all left now, those wattle starlings. They've all gone. The length of day and night is a cue to a lot of the birds, as well as the temperature, that it's time to move on. So a migratory bird will go through one of two things. They'll either do what they call hypolipogenesis, hypo meaning a lot, lipo meaning fat, so put on a lot of fat. So they are just eating as much as they can to build up a fat reserve in order to be able to fly the long distance without needing to stop. And then there are other birds, like the larger birds, storks, and some of those that will literally need to land every day to feed, and then interestingly enough, they'll actually fly at night by what's called astronavigation. They'll actually fly by the stars. Some birds will fly using landmarks if they're flying during the day, and then there are also, they've done studies with birds that fly with a magnetic field to get to and from the places, and that's how they make their way. So sometimes it'll take them a week or two, and sometimes it'll also try and find the winds that go in the right direction for them, so that it does ease their passage going across those long distances. But you can just imagine. The longest migratory bird is the Arctic tern, that migrates from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, and it's doing a 55,000 kilometer round trip. Just imagine, that's a tiny, tiny little bird. We climb on an aircraft for a couple of hours to get to a different destination, and this little bird on its two wings is flying, circumnavigating the globe, basically. That's just an amazing feat of nature. Let's see, I don't know what other birds. We'll keep scanning and see if we can find any other birds. So there aren't any animals that have come down to drink, but at the moment there is, there's some guinea fowl. So just where the blacksmith's lapwing was, just to the left, there's two helmeted guinea fowl. The one's come down to drink water. But you can see, if you go to where the lapwing was, and then to the left of the lapwing, there's two guinea fowl on the edge there. Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So, nice helmeted guinea fowl. It's, when you start seeing them only in pairs and they're not in flocks, then there's a very good possibility that the female is sitting on a clutch of eggs. Probably anywhere about 14 eggs. That'll be hidden somewhere in the grass with lots of little guinea fowl feathers. Lara Moore is commenting that the scenery looks like paradise. Absolutely. It is paradise if you're one of the animals at the moment, but yeah, I think all of those are chilling in the shade somewhere, because it's definitely still very warm out. I mean, we're probably still sitting at about 32 degrees at this stage, and I think we're going to sit that way for at least another hour and a bit. So there's just the sheer volume of water all over the place. The sort of unprecedented rains in the Kalahari over the last 2-3 weeks has been absolutely phenomenal. So it sounds like Juma's back online. We're gonna send you across to Steve.
Indeed it is, and good afternoon everybody. Welcome to the Final Control Dam Cam Operations Centre with myself, Steve Falconbridge, where I've been waiting for hours to introduce myself. But another afternoon of rain and another afternoon of gremlins has been plaguing us, but that's okay. We are with you now. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. Dam Cam has been pretty quiet, apart from a couple of Nyala bulls that came down at one point. And they had a little bit of a dance-off, which I was quite excited about for a moment. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen of the Nyala dance, but There's definitely one that happens quite regularly in front of this dam. I've never heard of it before. It's basically where two Nyala bulls see each other and they puff up their fur, pilo-erect it to make themselves look much bigger, and they go through this very slow movement while each one susses the other one out. And it doesn't often lead to confrontation, because what it does is it indicates to the other individual, one or the other, that someone is bigger. And being bigger is often enough to eliminate the need for confrontation. And it's very rare to actually see them then fight. But if they do fight, it's due to the fact that, well, they think that they're evenly matched, or one thinks he's bigger than the other and the other one's not backing away. The one fight I saw, the one individual was actually standing on a little bit more of an uphill, and the other one had obviously sussed him out and thought he wasn't bigger than him, and then suddenly the other fellow found himself on the uphill and attacked, and so that might have given him the advantage, to which the fight was then pretty quick and pretty violent, and the one who instigated the fight won as the other one bolted for cover. But always interesting to see, and the purpose of it, of course, is if you have to fight every single male you see in your life, it's going to be a very long, or should I say short, existence with lots of bloody noses. Anyway, Lauren is out and about as well. Hopefully she's not getting very wet in this rain.
I am wet and not loving it so much. It's rather chilly. But we have came across some elephants just on the western edge of quarantine. Only 3 that I can see so far. We've already been to the hyena den. All the cubs were out, but sadly no adults. So of course, there's more elephants coming. Once we lose sight of the elephants, we will make our way back there, and hopefully there'll be an adult. I wonder if this is the same little group from this morning. We had a mother, a large female, and a sort of mixture of adolescent youngsters. I wonder if it's the same ones. I mean, they don't really have to go too far from quarantine right now, especially because they haven't got the strength in numbers. They've got the food, they've got the marula trees, they've got the moisture. They've got the visibility. It's a big open clearing. They can see for miles. Or maybe not miles, but they can see far. I think it is. I think it's the same small little herd from this morning. And it's mostly grassies that the elephants are feeding on these days. That's where they'll get most of their nutrition. Supplemented by a heavy dose of fructose in the form of the marula fruit. So please don't forget to send in your questions. #WildEarth at AFC. Kids, questions at wildearth.tv, or head over to the website and go to the live safari page. We need your questions. It's a tough day. The gremlins are out in full force and the weather's not so pleasant. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer to these elephants. My goodness. So Tandy made a kill on Chitwa. Unfortunately, it's very frustrating. We cannot go there. But I know that many of you like to be updated on where our leopards are. I don't actually know what she killed, but she's on Chitwa. Can you work with us, Dobby? Matthew, it really depends on the area. Herd size will be directly related to environment. It will be related to sort of the number of elephants in the surrounding area. But generally speaking, on average, a herd size can range anywhere between 15 to 25. So I think 15 is a sort of average number. But it will really depend on so many factors. And it will also depend on the strength of the matriarch. It's a wonderful book that I mention quite a lot called Beyond Words. And it's all about elephants, whales, and wolves. And the sort of elephant section, it goes deep into the role of the matriarch. And not all females will become good matriarchs, unfortunately. Some females are thrown into the role at a really young age and they're not quite ready. They don't quite have all the environmental knowledge and the cultural knowledge and just the ability to guide and lead the herd. It's a huge responsibility. Ultimately, the matriarch's responsible for the reproductive success of everybody in the herd. But not all matriarchs are successful, especially when they're thrown into the role very young. So in a scenario like that, the herd probably won't get too big. But on average out here, I would say 15. But that's a very ballpark figure. You can get huge herds up in the Masai Mara and never... Oh. A never-ending train of elephants up there. You can hear the pitter-patter of raindrops falling on the roof as we're watching the elephants. They will relish rain like this. Arthur, nice name. By looking at their tusks, no. Their tusks are quite unreliable. The youngsters will develop milk tusks, and then when their full adult tusks come in, they can actually develop at different rates. So gauging the age by tusks is really not advisable. And the tusks all grow in different shapes and sizes. You also get tuskless giraffes. I mean elephants. We're not looking at giraffes, are we? The rain's going to my head now. Where they just never grow tusks. And for females, this is most likely due to genetics. For some reason, they just never sort of grow their tusks. And for the males, if you do tend to find older bulls without any tusks, this is normally due to damage from fighting, where they've probably snapped their tusks off. But tuskless individuals in both sexes are known. It is quite common. And with females, when I say genetics, it's normally a recessive gene. And of course, the recessive gene can continue throughout different lineages. But the tusks do not regrow. So if an elephant loses a tusk, there's no regrowth. So yes, you don't gauge the age through tusks. Size is probably the best indicator. Okay, I think we're going to bumble now to the hyena den. We've got lots of exciting hyena activities today, and hopefully it's active.
If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by, And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at Ambion Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra. Because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on Wild Earth.
When I said giraffe earlier by mistake, I willed this individual into existence. Good evening. You don't look too impressed with the rain. I do understand. Can we just zoom into under the belly there, Davy? Yes, this is nice. This is very nice to see a female for a change. She's very light and she's also small. She won't look small on camera, of course, but once you start seeing giraffes everywhere, she's very petite compared to the males. And she has a lot of oxpeckers on her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're all busy at work. There's possibly more than 5. I can see a tail of another one on the other side. Hello, beautiful. We literally just turned the corner, trying to get to the hyena den, and of course this beauty is standing in our way. Yes, you. You're beautiful. Look how busy that oxpecker is. Pluck, 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 pluck. Many of you are saying she looks like she's in good condition. She's in very good condition. And generally speaking, and again, this is a sort of average statement, but the females hold on to their good condition a lot longer than the males. They don't fight like the males do. They don't have battle scars. So generally, normally when the male and female are the same age, and they're both slightly older, the female will look in better condition. And look how green the environment is behind her. I know we see this every day, but the bush is just so thick. If an animal really doesn't want to be seen these days, it doesn't have to try very hard to hide from us. Now, although the females don't have a sort of strict social structure as such, they have a very sort of a loose, but yet gregarious, non-territorial sort of structure. They do enjoy being in the company of other giraffes. So you normally will find more than one female in the one area. They don't need to be standing next to one another, of course. They've got height advantage. They can see one another. But they do enjoy spending time with other giraffes. Are you trying to get rid of all those oxpeckers? My goodness, there's more than I thought. There's about 8. I can imagine that must get a little bit irritating after a while. I'm having comms break up there, so I didn't get the name. But yes, they are active at night. Giraffes are said to be one of the sleepless mammals. They sleep on average 4.5 hours in every 24 hours. Wow, that is not a lot of sleeping. I could definitely not survive on that. And they only sleep in short bouts. So it's not long periods of sleep at the one time. Getting down on the ground leaves them very vulnerable. So they do lie down and they sort of bend their knees, rest on their side and curl their neck around their body. It's very sweet. But it's normally 5-minute installments and they're back up again. Can you imagine that? Oh, I would not enjoy that. Sleep comes at a really steep price when you're a giraffe. So you either sleep or survive. And that's why they're said to be one of the most sleepless animals on Earth. They actually term this the high alert power nap strategy. They always remain alert. Giraffes are huge animals. Lots of body weight, powerful kicks. But when you're on the ground, there's no way you could survive any predators. They're not the most elegant animals when getting up from the ground. Their entire body shape has adapted to holding them up, supporting the neck, keeping them upright. So it's not easy for an animal like this to lie down and then immediately get up again. So we are going to try our very best to get to the den, and we're going to send you guys across to Pinda with their cheetah.
Well, from giraffes to cheetah, we found ourselves 4 young cheetah out here in the open sort of plains of Pinda between the thickets here. And these 4 cheetah you may have seen before on Wild Earth if you've watched from time to time. They are 4 orphans that have lost their mother. And now recently in the last 3 or 4 days we've been seeing them only 4. There used to be 5 of them until a few days ago, and then we found them 2 mornings since without the one, and we think we're still hoping that he might sort of appear. Maybe he's just lost, maybe he's just been separated from the rest of the 4, but there's a very good chance that he has fallen victim to a predator or some other fate. But the good news is that these 4 are still in healthy condition, and thing here on the edge of the thicket. Looks like they may have fed, not recently, but a couple of days ago. You see how 3 of their heads are down and the one has kept his head up just to make sure that he stays alert and vigilant for any other predators that might be in the area. Because if they did come into contact with a predator, be it a lion or a leopard or a hyena, that was responsible for the disappearance of their other sibling, they would have learned from that and become extra vigilant in the days that have directly followed from that incident. So even though it's a tough life for cheetahs and they face a lot of hardships, every time they do, they learn and they become more successful. Which is good to see that they're still keeping watch and vigilant, because Clayton, yeah, fingers crossed that he is okay. There is a lot of hope. I mean, I've seen cheetah cubs reunite with their mothers and siblings after 4 days of being lost, and we had given up all hope that they died. But yeah, they found each other, and it doesn't take. All that they need to do is keep looking, and that other cub will probably be calling for his brothers if he's still alive, brothers and sisters, calling, contact calling, walking around, trying to smell if their scent is anywhere in the area, and that would be the way that they try and reconnect. But yes, fingers crossed. There was one female cheetah with 3 cubs a couple of years ago on Phinda that walked one night into an area where we've been seeing a pride of lions quite consistently, and we thought, oh no, she's going to face something this evening. And the morning we just found her, and we thought that all of her cubs had been killed. And the next day she'd found one, thank goodness, and we were so happy that she'd found another one. And then the next day she found the second, and then on the third day she found the third. So she managed to find all of her cubs after that incident that she'd obviously experienced. She'd obviously run into lions and then maybe chased them and all split up into the bush and lost each other but found each other again. So yes, fingers crossed that they find the other youngster, but as of them finding him becomes less and less likely, unfortunately. Yeah, but these cubs are starting to grow quite big. When we first started seeing them after the national lockdown and after we hadn't driven around the reserve for a long time, they were on their own, but there was tiny cubs, and we actually we wondered how on earth they would be able to hunt for themselves because they hadn't been taught by their mother. But they have proven us wrong. They've been successful, even though they don't catch big prey. They do catch small impalas. We've seen them catching small nyala, and they've managed to survive. I'm sure in between their bigger meals of small nyala and impala, they've needed to maybe survive off a couple of meals of insects, maybe a couple of frogs, just to sustain themselves. But the important thing is that they have survived till this point, and every little bit of their survival has been a learning curve. So the longer that they survive, the better their chances are of them reaching adulthood. So Tina has asked, when will these cheetahs start to split up? And that's a good question. It's difficult to answer because this is a very exceptional case in that they're sticking together, but there's no mother to sort of guide them through life. And I think the only reason that they're sticking together now is for a sense of security, because they are still quite intimidated by being in the bush by themselves. But cheetahs normally leave their mother when they're about 2 years old, sometimes even older, sometimes earlier, but the average is 2. And these cheetah are only about 11 months, which is very, very young for them, even if they were with their mother to split up. So I think they'll probably be with each other for quite a while, possibly another year. But as soon as the males start to become sexually mature, and as soon as they start to try and mate with other females, or they feel the urge to find females to mate with, the females will also reach that age at about the same time, and they'll also go into estrus and look to seek out males. At that stage, they will probably want to sort of split up, because the 2 males in this foursome will start to fight over females, and the females, when the males try to mate with them, because they will, even though they're siblings, the females will want to get away from them. And that's, I think, what will eventually force them apart, is when they start to become sexually active or sexually mature. for now, that's not what drives them. Their hormones haven't told them to start mating yet, so they're purely trying to survive. And at the moment, the best way that they're going to survive is to stick together. So Gina, it is fantastic to see them in good condition, and they seem in good condition. And if we look closely, they're skinny because they haven't eaten maybe in the last day or two, but their hip bones aren't protruding. They haven't got pelvises exposed, which you would expect to see if they were in very bad condition and they hadn't eaten in a while. They just slim like cheetahs are meant to be, and they're looking in perfect health for young cheetahs. Their fur is even and sort of not falling out, which is also a sign that they would be in bad condition. So it's positive news. It's news that tells us that they're able to hunt and they're able to sustain themselves on their own. Look at that cheetah now, he's fallen asleep. With his head, he's trying so hard to keep it upright, but it's just literally fell asleep before his head hit the floor, and he put it back up because he's focusing on keeping watch for other predators, but he's going to slowly fall asleep again, I'm sure. The other two have succumbed to sleep already. He's fighting so hard. Now his head's dropping the other way. At least there's one that's seems to be wide awake to keep watch, and that is the benefit of them staying together, or one of the benefits. There's 5 sets of eyes to keep watch for predators and also to look for prey. And so not 5, there's 4 sets of eyes. But while the 3 sleep, the one can stay awake, and that allows them to rest and to, increase their chances of survival. Now all of their heads are down. And you've had some strange weather. The clouds are coming over again. We might be in for some showers tonight, but for now it looks good. But I think we're going to spend some time with these cheetah. Maybe in the afternoon coolness they'll be tempted to get up and walk around, and maybe they'll hear or smell something that they'll interest them in, and they'll try to hunt. But we'll stick with them and see how it goes. But we're going to send you for now to Lauren for a bumble.
Now, unfortunately, the hyena den is active, but no adults. So I'm afraid we're going to just have to bumble back to quarantine. I cannot tell you how many loops around quarantine Steve and I have done in the past few days, but we'll head back that way and come back again, and hopefully there'll be an adult. And then we can spend some time there. As many of you know, we don't spend time there without an adult. We can encourage the cubs, especially the younger ones, maybe not so much in Gwazi and Shimbulu now. We can encourage them to sort of come out and roam around with no protection of an adult who would chase away any threat or any predator. So we'll go back to quarantine and see if we can catch up with these elephants again. Possibly even that female giraffe. She was beautiful. We stayed with her for quite a few minutes after. There's spider webs everywhere. I have to say I'm disappointed I haven't seen a golden orb web spider yet. Very sad about that. Stacey, most predator offspring are born altricial, and what altricial means is underdeveloped. So because a predator can't really afford to be sort of heavily pregnant for a long time, it would affect their hunting abilities, it would affect their own survival. You will find that the offspring are born underdeveloped. Now, hyena cubs are actually born a little bit more precocial than the others, than the likes of cheetah, leopard, lion, but they will den. It's not always a termite mound. Sometimes it can be a sort of really thick area of vegetation, maybe in the walls of an embankment, maybe in a burrow. So it will differ, but you will call that a den site. So they just need a little bit longer to develop. Leopards and lions, for example, they are born completely blind. They can't open their eyes, they can't see. That takes time. And they also are underdeveloped muscles. They can't really move properly. So it takes some time. And then, of course, once they start to develop rapidly with mum's milk, then they will, of course, start to become a little bit more mobile and travel with mum, depending on what predator you're talking about. Hyenas actually are one of the predators that stay at a den site for a prolonged period of time. Talking of predators, while I head to quarantine, we are going to send you back across to those cheetah.
Right, we wish Lauren good luck on her bumble. Hopefully something exciting turns up. It's always the best to find something when you're not expecting it. But have a look at the clouds that have just rolled in over Phinda. Beautiful, beautiful shapes and colours in the clouds. And it looks like a bit of a front that we are experiencing. It most often brings a bit of rain, but it doesn't look like it's going to bring heavy showers tonight. But it's just a beautiful scene. These cheetah under the big African sky in the green grass, resting. It's been a hot day here, probably about 35 degrees, so this cloud cover is very welcome. And you'll notice on actually a collar. So when their mother passed away or was killed by lions, these cheetah were actually taken, made sure that when I say taken, we darted them, put them in an enclosure just to see if they were all right and didn't need to be treated medically, and then we released them with one of them having a collar on so that we could monitor them and keep track of their movements are. Unfortunately, the cheetah that's missing at the moment didn't have a collar, so we have no way of knowing where he is or if he's even alive, or if he's still surviving, or if he's been killed. So we're just going to have to wait, and I know it's very frustrating, but there's always hope. We don't know for sure. We haven't found his body. We didn't have any signs of predators in the area where they were, so it could be that he just snuck away and lost his brothers and sisters. One at the back there starting to flick his tail, looking a little bit more active, a little bit more awake. Maybe he smelled something or heard something that caught his attention and pulled him out of his sleep. Maybe he'll keep on sleeping in a few moments, drift back. They actually found they've got a beautiful spot where they've decided to rest. They're out in the middle of an open area, or not in the middle, they're on the edge, but they've got a great view over the whole open area. So if any prey decides to wander into the open area, maybe an impala, a herd of impala, or a herd of a nyala, they'll be able to see it, and if they want to stalk, then they could Oh, the one is actually looks like it's seen something off to the right. He's got himself on his shoulders and he's looking. I'm going to try and see what he's seen. Could have just been a sound, but it looks like his attention has been kind of broken now. Probably not anything serious. But that's the kind of attitude that we'd expect to see if he'd seen something. But they do. They've found a beautiful spot here. There's some water next door. Well, not next door, but right next to them. So they've got a great spot to relax.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of Wild Earth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the Wild Earth camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of February 2021 and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
Oh, my dear, I do find you most attractive when you're covered in bird lice. Oh, Charles, I love it when you peck at my head and clean the bird lice off me. Let me say hello to Barry here. Hello, Barry. I'm just going to examine you for some bird lice. Charles, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, all right. I shall look for bird lice myself then.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
We've caught up with our female here. She didn't move too far at all, to be fair. And I mentioned there's 4 species of giraffe now confirmed. It's quite a recent paper. And there's 9 subspecies. Now with subspecies, you've got to remember it's the same species. There's just sort of specialized adaptations that have happened along the line because they've branched off. So genetically they're still the same, but they've branched off normally due to geographic isolation. So naturally, they're isolated from the rest of the population, and over time, they're going to develop sort of unique characteristics. But genetically, they're still the same species, and they can interbreed with their own, but they're classified as subspecies. And the Nubian giraffe, Nubian, if any of you have maybe never heard of it, that's a subspecies, and it's found in sort of Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, even South Sudan, and it's actually went extinct or locally extinct in various different countries across the African continent, mainly on the western side of the African continent and the north. It used to be completely widespread, and sadly now it's not. So it's one of the more endangered subspecies. And in 2010, it was estimated there was a very, very low population of around 250, but this was disputed. And as of, I think, 2016, so 6 years later, they recently estimated that there's a lot more. There's a couple of thousand, but it's still very low. And then there's the Rothschild giraffe. It's another subspecies, and it's a subspecies of the northern giraffe, and it's one of the most endangered. The populations are in big decline, which is very, very sad. All giraffe species are said to be in decline, quite dramatically so. And it's mostly due to habitat loss. So indirectly humans, if you like. And habitat loss will come through expanding agriculture, even possible civil unrest in countries. There's also human-wildlife conflict to think about. And sometimes giraffes are actually killed for, well, they're poached for their meat, their pelts, and their tails. All of these factors, directly or indirectly related to humans, are the reasons for the decline in giraffes. We see a lot here, so we just automatically assume the populations are healthy, but they're not by a long shot. And giraffes, of course, have their own battles to fight. They're actually very, very susceptible to papillomavirus. It's linked to herpes. We call it herpes when it's present in humans. And this is a virus which is transmitted quite rapidly through giraffes. And it causes warts and lesions on their skin. And it grows very, very rapidly, and it's not pleasant when you see a giraffe that's suffering from this. It can be really, really irritating. So what happens is the giraffe starts to rub the area against trees or even maybe termite mounds or anything rough, which of course causes that area to rupture naturally. We all know what it's like to scratch that mosquito bite, and you just cannot stop scratching. Oh, it makes you go crazy. And then sometimes you end up opening that wound, or you create a wound. It's essentially the same thing. And then, of course, ruptures lead to infections. And it can be really quite self-limiting or progressive depending on the individual giraffe's immune system. And then what happens a little bit further down the line is that these warts, these lumps, harden, and they eventually turn into a type of cancer called sarcoid. And the transmission, how does it get from giraffe to giraffe? I mentioned earlier they've got quite loose social structures. So how on earth does this virus transmit itself? And it's said, one of the theories is that it's from, I'm sure you're going to guess, the good old oxpeckers, the vampires. So they think that because the oxpeckers are continually jumping from individual to individual to individual, they're actually transmitting the virus on its beak. So although it's not a disease, it does absolutely affect the animal's health. It's also very unsightly when you see a giraffe. If you Google it, it's not very nice. So giraffes have their own battles to face. That was my point. That doesn't include humans. And then when you throw humans into the mix, well, they're in trouble. But the statistics about the species and the subspecies is a fairly recent paper. I didn't catch that name. I'm having a little bit of issue with my comms. But yes, giraffes do make sounds. And it's fascinating because they were believed for a long, long time to be silent animals. Giraffes are very, very silent. They will bellow occasionally. They don't sort of alarm call for predators like your impala or your kudu do. But you will hear them bellow occasionally. But they were generally thought to be quite silent, and they're not at all. It's wonderful. This study, of course, it uses a lot of technology, and they discovered that giraffes are continually communicating all night long. And they called it a humming sound. I guess that's what it looks like in terms of audio frequency. But it's just below the human hearing range. Once again, we cannot hear it, so we automatically assume they are not vocal, they're silent. And that's really, really not the case. They also describe the sort of humming as being very, very rich in harmonic structure. So it's not just a small sound, it's very, very rich. There's lots of structure to it. It's a really deep and sustained sound, and it only occurs at night. And I believe the average frequency is around 92 hertz, so it's very, very low, and that's exactly why humans cannot hear it. So we assume. And it's most likely due to, well, it's communication, it's signaling, it's providing information, especially at night time. Giraffes are quite visual, and therefore, when it gets dark, they lose that visual capacity. So they want to stay safe. They want all the other giraffes to stay safe, and that's exactly why they communicate. So when they use the word hum, I guess it's not an official term, but they do call it humming. I had the most awful sighting with a giraffe in the Masai Mara, and I'm sure many of you will remember it. A young mother, lost her calf, and she was just standing by it day after day after day. The calf was not alive, and she was swarmed by the North Clan of hyenas, and it was very tragic. And she occasionally made a bellow sound, and that's the only time I've personally heard a giraffe vocalize. But the reason people thought giraffes don't vocalize is, one, because they don't hear it, and two, due to that sort of, well, extremely long neck. It was thought that maybe physically it's very difficult for them to generate airflow in order to produce any sort of substantial sound. And once again, we were wrong. It's not classified as infrasound, though. You classify elephants as infrasounds. But apparently some people can just marginally hear these sounds unaided with technology. But only if it was in a very, very quiet environment. Sorry, Darby, I've not got comms at all. Did you get that?
It broke up for me too.
Yeah, we're struggling with our comms a little bit, Jared. Let's try one more time.
Do family members have similar patterns?
Oh, okay. Stuck in bed. Yes, I got that part. I don't know. I think our radios are a little bit weak today. And yes, stuck in bed. Great question. They do. It's actually another recent study. I feel like a lot of the science on giraffes was fairly recent. And yes, it's said that there's specific areas, not the entire body, but there's specific unique patterns that they use to identify individuals that are actually passed on from the mother. So it's said that the calves inherit these physical traits. And this study also revealed that the newborn giraffes, calves, with larger patches, they call them spots, but I just can't, it's patches, and the more irregularly shaped they are, they have an increased chance of survival during the first few months of life. And I guess this could reflect camouflage for the young giraffes, but it could also be related to many survival enhancing factors. Temperature regulation, visual communication, they don't actually know. But yes, mothers and calves have similar patterns. This is a hungry lady. Taking the leaves of this marula here. Sorry, I've got no comms at all. I hear Beach Bunny and then that's it. Did you get that, Davy? Yes. Sorry, Jared, we're really struggling with our radio. There's actually another giraffe over in the distance. I don't think Davy will be able to get it, but on the western edge of quarantine, there's another giraffe. The southern edge, sorry. She's a very relaxed female. Sometimes you'll find that they don't like it when the cars are too close. She's very relaxed. She's only about 5 meters in front of us. There's more. I can see 3 now. Beach bunny. Okay. We're asking, can predators here at the level that giraffes communicate? I do not know. I don't believe that's been studied, I'm afraid. It's very, very fairly, well, I actually don't know the date, but it's new science, the humming sound. It's relatively new. So I don't actually know if they can hear it. And they still don't know the purpose exactly of the humming. The other giraffes are walking this way. I wonder if they'll all come together. You'll never find a female alone. There'll always be another giraffe nearby. I think it was just last year or the year before the humming study came out, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's a little bit earlier than that. But either way, I guess we now understand that they do produce sounds, but it's not fully understood why, to what extent they're using these sounds. I know there was some theories that, again, just theories, but it's possibly similar to snoring. Is it just a sound that they are producing, like humans snore? Or is it produced in a dreamlike state? Because they do rest. They have to rest. No mammal, no animal cannot not rest. That's some of the theories. Or is it just a way for them to say, hey guys, I'm here, I'm a giraffe, are you nearby? Have you seen any lions? Not quite. But is it just communication, or is it coming from something else? Because it's only produced at night. So it's another piece to the puzzle, but I guess it's not the full puzzle. Ian, you're asking, how do you age a giraffe? Again, it's tricky. Size is your best bet, but they do grow very rapidly. Giraffes don't stay small for very long because, well, size is to their advantage, I guess. So size, and you also look at condition. The condition of the animal. For example, when males are older, you will see, as I mentioned earlier, that they will sort of be covered in scars and scrapes and notches missing because they're older and they've been through many a battle. But I mean, a newborn giraffe weighs in about 100 kilograms and can stand within the first 15 minutes. So they're remarkably precocial, which is completely opposite to the predators that I mentioned earlier being altricial. And generally, they just keep growing and growing and growing, and they double their body weight very, very fast. So it's difficult to age a giraffe. I think they're said to grow about 1 meter, which is 3 feet thereabouts, in the first 6 months. And then it doubles. in the first year. Now, that's an incredible growth rate. Okay, so we're losing a little bit of light here, but we'll try and stay with these giraffes as long as we can. And for now, over to Tswalu.
So, welcome back to Tswalu. We're with the same group of meerkats we were with this morning, the Makalas, because we are waiting for new babies to come out. They are literally 16 days old. One has come out, but apparently there are 5. So where that one is laid back leaning, the one in the middle of the 3, they're in that little hole there, and we have literally just seen one pup come out. It's nice and warm now this afternoon at the den, and all the meerkats have got back nice and early, so they're doing some housekeeping. They've been actually nipping at the vegetation to clean it away from the entrances of the burrows, and lots of communication going on between them because they want to encourage the pups to start coming out. It's literally within the next couple of days that they encourage the pups to come out, and slowly the pups will start moving with them. This one here in front is very laid back, very relaxed. Even the one in the back's lying flat in the sand. They're just, lounging about at home. This is their paradise. Oh, I think I'm gonna oh, no, I can just see 2 little faces, but not the babies yet. I have to laugh. That one is literally lounging like he's in the sun deck chair. He's leaning back completely on the curve of that thing there, looking up. That's the real lazy way of doing duty. He's just watching the swan. Not so lazy anymore. We're going to see if we potentially change the angle. We might be able to get one. I'll let you know, Morgan, if I can see one. I'm creeping closely. So I know everybody always wonders how close we get to them. So with this particular group, we're probably 3 meters away from them. That's how habituated they are over time. Then they appear that there's no threat. You just saw that one react quite suddenly. One of them stuck his head out the hole and bit him on the base of the tail and just pulled his tail. But that's why he moved so suddenly. It was because the one in the hole decided to bite him on the tail. No movement now. So that one is just lying absolutely flat, spread-eagled on the sand. Sometimes they'll dig and then the sand is a little bit cooler underneath, and they'll lie on their belly to help cool themselves down a little bit if it has been a really, really hot day. I can hear them. There's a lot of conversation going on down in the hole because there's 3 adults in the hole and 5 pups. Maybe. I'm making our lounging one in the shade there. So there's constant communication between them. If they see anything dangerous, they're going to let the others know. So we're going to stick here a little bit longer and see if they come out. There's still some time before the sun sets. We're going to hope we get a last glimpse, well, a first glimpse of them.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We stopped as the dusk was settling and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
We have a baby pangolin. A baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
So we stayed with him. There's a little bit more movement, but this is the older pups. This is sort of the 4-month-old pups that are here. Well, now it's time for play. Somebody's the victim. Always somebody's the victim. They're just getting bullied. Ow! They got sharp little teeth. For little carnivores, they got really, really sharp teeth. So dealing with 3 of your siblings trying to all bite you at the same time is quite something. But all of this is important. That's maintaining their bonds. It gets their smells all over each other. It teaches them valuable skills, life skills, literally for maybe potentially getting away from a predator, biting, tussling, dealing with something a little bit bigger than themselves. All essential if you're going to be a meerkat. I don't even know what the one in the front's trying to do. Trying to sit peacefully, waiting, absorbing the last rays of the afternoon sun. It is really awesome to see them play. It just shows you how although we are this close to them, we don't affect their natural behavior at all. They wouldn't be doing this if they were affected by our presence. They've come to handle us being around them all the time with no ill effects. So they carry on doing their normal behavior. He's sitting on him. What do you think of this meerkat play? Tell us down in the comments section. It is quite a funny thing to see. He's like, no, leave me. I'm trying to sleep. If he doesn't look, then they're not there. Megan's comment is they are so cute. And even cuter than those will be if the little ones come out. So we're just going to keep trying because the good news from Veronique, the meerkat habituator, is that all three groups all have babies, and it's just a matter of the next couple of weeks as we wait for them to emerge. I think the horses, you just said 3 days old, brand new pups, so those will have to wait for about 2 weeks before you see some horse babies. The rock stars, probably in the next week, will make their first emergence, and we're hoping to get these Makala pups emerging for the first time now. And it also shows you that with all the rains and the sheer volume of insects, they're able to successfully breed at least twice within the season. I mean, those smaller ones are 4 months old, and then these new ones are 2 weeks old. So literally the female had these for a month and then fell pregnant for another sort of 2.5 months in order to have that. And I say the female because they're run by an alpha female, so she'll have all the pups. There are sometimes the beta female may have pups, but then there's sometimes competition in amongst the group if there's 2 sets of pups. That's a picture perfect moment, that. Absolutely stunning. So while we continue to wait, hopefully they'll come out. We're going to send you across to Steve, who has a waterbuck for you.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Dam Cam, where we have got a beautiful and a magnificently sized waterbuck bull who is gloriously standing with his back to the water as he's chewing the cud. He's been feeding, no doubt, for some time. Slipped down for a little drink, and now I can see his back legs. I've not noticed it before. I didn't really pay too much attention, but when we had the Talamati Pride a week or 2 ago, the infamous evening where I got stuck, they were feeding on a waterbuck, but all I could see when I finally got there was what looked like a wildebeest leg. And you look at his back legs, they actually do look rather, sorry about the jarring of the camera there, they do look rather wildebeest-esque, with that very dark coloration. That's all I could see. That's all that was left when we found him, or it, with the kill. Big animal that even Talamati Pride feasted. So there are lots of waterbuck around. We do see them a lot in the summer months. The females, many of them are breeding right now, hiding their youngsters in the long grass. I can't say I've seen many waterbuck in the last few weeks with all this rain. The last waterbuck I saw was the dead one. Often see many of them down around Tswalu. They're often not found. Often they're found not often very far away from water. And hence this fellow is hanging down by the watering hole, just busy making his food a little bit more digestible. Just swallowed. He's going to regurgitate again. Ooh. Before they're often on their own. He's just a big boy. He likes to hang out by himself. You might find him following ladies around, but it's not that time of year for such activities. And it's showing his strength and dominance being by himself. When they're younger, they hang out in small groups to sort of protect each other, to practice fighting. But he's a proper machine, this one. You can see the size of this horns. He's a fully grown waterbuck bull. There, he just vomited again. You can actually see he's using his diaphragm to push the cud from the tummy back into the throat. You actually see when he does it, he does a sort of bodily sort of movement. And I was being rather shy. We are in the infrared spectrum, so he's busy looking around in the darkness. See how his ears are behind, facing backwards, listening for sounds from the back, while he stares off in the other direction. Bit of an itchy bum. I'm not actually sure, Arthur. I don't have any records with me about the length of the horns, but this is about as long as I've seen a set of waterbuck horns. Very, very long and very sharp, the tips of them anyway, but you can see the ridges up and along. That is to assist when they fight in locking in to the horn of another male so that they don't slip, which means that they put all of their force into the horns, which hold. If they slipped, they would hurt each other. Obviously, the point is to dominate each other, but they don't want to have to slip all the time, because slipping can lead to serious injury. And these fellows do hurt each other from time to time, especially when they're unevenly matched. But I don't have any records for you, I'm afraid, on the exact length. Maybe some viewers out there are able to help in the length of waterbuck horns. But they look like they're at least 1 meter in length, maybe just under. Maybe just under with that curve. I say it's probably under 1 meter. It looks enormous on the dam cam now, but bearing in mind he is a very big fellow. Okay, well, we're going to see if our waterbuck gets up to much on the dam cam while it gets dark, and we send it over to Tswalu Kalahari with their meerkats.
So, these three have just carried on playing, rolling upside down, legs in the air, biting at each other. They've just been having a good play, and then the one adult's like, I'm not interested, I'm just sitting here with the sun on my back. So they have been continuing to entertain us. No signs of little pups yet. We'll just have to keep coming back and we will show them to you eventually. But they are still on alert. Any of the big birds that fly over, they have a good look. They tend to panic a little bit if it's anything larger than a hornbill, because that's potentially in an eagle category. But anything else smaller than that, they don't tend to worry too much. So at the moment, it's mostly sort of swifts and swallows that are flying over. Question from Philip is, are meerkats related to mongooses? Yes, they are. They're basically their closest relative. And then I actually got the same question this morning, and then I had a look, and then the next closest relative to them actually is the hyena, which is quite strange. I don't know quite how that link works. I mean, the only thing that I can tell you that they both are is carnivores. Yeah, meerkats are related to mongooses. Meerkat's just an alternative name. I mean, they could have been called a spotty mongoose if you wanted to be different, but they are related. The mongoose can also stand on their back legs, but they don't tend to do it as much as the meerkats. So that's a little bit of a dominant behavior that you're seeing there. If the one's sort of like grabbing it and mounting it, it might be that it's a male. That's how they learn. They have to sort of practice when they want to become adults. and sometimes it's also just to scent mark the other individuals of the group so that they all smell the same. Oh, isn't that precious? Put down in the comment section your one word for that. That is just, for me, just precious to see them hug each other like that. Ow, but biting is not so nice. They're slowly just winding down for the day. The sun's not far on the horizon. You can see the colours have changed and the shadows are a little bit longer. So it's not much more, and then they're going to go down under. And with meerkats in the afternoon, once they've pretty much decided to go down for the night, that's it. They don't sort of come back out and check. Once they've done their sort of housekeeping and cleaning, then if the whole group goes down, then that's it. So I think this might be our last segment with the meerkats for today, because yeah, once they're down, that's it until tomorrow morning. Hopefully they're a little bit earlier risers tomorrow morning. This morning was they took their leisurely time. Roxanne's one-word tweet is uplifting. That is, it's a very beautiful little shot, that, with them giving each other a hug like that. Mike's word is cute. Agreed. And Jerome says, precious. Aren't they just? Oh, last minute maintenance on this one. It's actually nipping at the vegetation to get rid of the creepers that are climbing into the burrows at this stage. It's just awesome to hear all the late evening, late afternoon sounds. Everything's winding down. Tarboy is asking the question, would meerkats fight to the death? There have been cases, especially if you've got rival groups and one is managed to be cornered by that rival group, then they can land up killing it. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, they can. They'd obviously try and avoid that because nobody wants to lose their life in a fight. But if one manages to get cornered away from the rest of the group and the rest of the group's moved on, then it's quite difficult. But they do often work together as a group. They call it a mob. And they've got quite a funny, if they see another group of meerkats within their territory or close to their boundaries, sometimes they have this almost like a war dance. It's like a proper bounce that they have going towards with their tail up in the air, and like they arch their back and they bounce towards the other ones in an almost intimidating stance. And the other group, if they know that they're outside of their territory or they know they're in the wrong, then sometimes they tend to move off. But that could also then land up in an altercation because a new group has moved in and they want to take over a burrow system. So that would be when you have conflict. And sometimes you do have it if we were talking earlier about a beta female having her own set of pups and maybe an alpha female's got her set of pups. Sometimes the beta female will even kill the alpha female's pups or vice versa, because because they see the other one's pups as competition. So that's even within their own family group, it can happen. But that's that's not necessarily fight to the death as fighting for their life. That's more of a dealing with each other from a competition perspective. He's saying his last few chirps for good night. That was it. He just went choop choop and that's it. That's Meerkat's gone for the night. Good night. See you tomorrow. So we'll see what the updates are with these critters tomorrow morning. We're going to send you across to Lauren with an update.
And we're back on quarantine, but this time in infrared, which is wonderful news. So I've got my spotlight out, and I know there's a herd of elephants up here somewhere. We drove past them. So I'm just driving really, really carefully. Hopefully we'll be able to view them from a distance in infrared. I can see a grey body moving over there. That's a little bit too far. Okay, can see you up ahead. Let me just turn my lights off quickly. Okay, one light does not want to go off, which is not very helpful. But you can just see the elephant moving off there. Elephants, we've got more than one. I always think that elephants look slightly spooky, shall we say, in the dark. I think it's that great body size and the very, very small eyes that are obviously reflecting back at us through the infrared light that gives them that spooky appearance. Lisa, yes, they pretty much do. They really do. They may take rest stops, but just like giraffes, they're not quite as sleepless. But just like giraffes, they will not sleep very much. They will sleep standing up and sort of constantly be aware. Again, another organism that's very, very large, and lying down on the ground is going to leave them far too vulnerable. But yes, they do move through the night. You'll see them on the dam cam at all hours. And they'll just keep feeding. They'll use their other senses. Doesn't need to be eyesight. Now this is a terrible view, but we do have a vehicle in front of us. So bear with me. I cannot get my light to go off. There we go. Very temperamental lights. There's just a vehicle coming past us. Ethan, you're 5 years old and you are asking... Did you get that one, Davy?
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, we missed it. Sorry, Jared. The comms are really bad and there was a vehicle going past. But I got your question, Ethan. I'll just... Do elephants have toes? Aha! And yes, they do. Actually, they do have toes. They've got very, very unusual feet, if you like, and they're sort of round. It's always very sweet when you see an elephant's track marks. They're very, very round and they're very wrinkly. So all those wrinkles that you see on an elephant's body, they also exist under the soles of an elephant's foot. And the sort of structure of an elephant's foot is very, very specialized. It doesn't look so much specialized, but it actually is. So when you look at the front foot, the African elephant has 5 toes on the front and 4 on the back. But at that very, very front part where the toes are, and the back part, if you like, Ethan, where the heel is, they're packed with very, very specialized cells. And these cells can actually detect vibrations. Our feet cannot do that. Not at all. Our feet are a little bit clumsy, shall we say. But their feet has these specialized cells, so sometimes you'll see them on their tippy toes, if you like, when they're pointing their tiptoes down or their heels down, and they're trying to understand, they're trying to listen or feel, shall I say, the vibrations that are going on around them. And of course, their feet are huge in order to balance out their very large body weight. But yes, they do have toes. I love that question, Ethan. I wish I could show you their toes, but I think in infrared and at night time, it's not really advisable to get close to an elephant. You don't want to spook them at night time. Okay, so we're going to stay around quarantine for the rest of the drive, but for now, we're going to send you across to Dry Steve with a water buck.
I am very dry, I must say, very dry. But the waterbuck has a tendency to remain dry as well, and this fellow here is a monster. He's probably one of the largest waterbucks you'll come across, and I was just doing some research there, and indeed, my guess of about a metre, the longest recorded length of a waterbuck is 99 centimetres, so very, very close to a metre. So, but anywhere from 55 to 99 centimetres. Now, that's 22 to 39 inches long, everybody. Now, that's phenomenal. It's a very big-sized animal. And you can see this is a prime bull. If you look at the neck, look how wide his neck is. He's clearly been prepped for fighting. He's clearly been dominant. He's clearly been winning when it comes to the other boys and probably when it comes to breeding rights. And he's got a very good strategy here because he's got the dam to his backside and he's between the dam and a small pan. And so the chances of something sneaking up behind him are impossible unless a crocodile decides to come out of the pan there or the dam and grab him, which is not impossible, but he would hear that because water, as we all know, is not very stealthy. And so he's going to look into the darkness. We know that on rainy nights of late, our lion prides have been eating and having feeding frenzies. So he knows this. It is not his first rainy night, not his first night out in the darkness either. He's a fully grown male. And Paul, here in South Africa we get this waterbuck, which we commonly known as the common waterbuck. But then you also get the Dafasa up in Kenya. You get both of them up there, but you get the Dafasa, which has got the ring on the bottom, but it's a full ring. So where this fellow's got the ring and inside is grey, there they've got an entire white painted circle on the bottom. And I always remember Dafasa because of Mufasa. So you get the two species up in Kenya. I don't know of any others that they might occur. But this is the only one we find down in South Africa, and they're very common in the Kruger Park. He's staring off at something. You can see he stopped chewing. He stopped motionless. Oh, something on the other side. Now remember everybody, when waterbucks are threatened, they also have the potential to run into water. It's one of their sort of strategies of survival. And the reason why he's not getting that wet, because the waterbuck have got a very, very good adaptation with their fur. There's a gland on the skin that secretes a water impermeable sort of substance, almost like the preen oil that you find on ducks and birds. And that coats their fur. It gives males like this a very, very specific odor. And we'd be able to smell him. If you walk past, you'd be able to smell him. And that odor is all part and parcel of the gland secretion on the fur, which means that the water kind of just beads off of the fur rather than makes it wet. And if you're a big, thick, shaggy coated animal, you would hate to be very wet and soaky because he would sink in the water. But the waterbuck, related to many of the other antelopes such as the lechwe, which are very water-based, and looking at most of their range, the Tafasa is very central, sort of Africa, down to Kenya, and then this waterbuck is more sort of on our eastern sides, all the way up into Zambia and Mozambique, Zimbabwe, up into the sort of coastal regions, up into Kenya and the like. But very sedentary, as I said before. They don't move very far away from water. It's very rare you'll find them further than a kilometre or so. But because the vegetation has been so dense and so much moisture, they've been able to range further because there's water everywhere. So they can go and feed in areas that they wouldn't necessarily be feeding in the winter months. And that's a very important thing, and it's something we discuss quite often, the difference between wet season range and dry season range. And there's a difference because the reason why they have a dry season range specifically is animals are very dependent, so some of them more so than others, on water, waterbuck being one of the highest dependencies. But in the summer months when there's water around, they can go much further away to areas that they never would occupy during the winter months because of availability of surface water. What was that? Can you imagine what it must feel like, everybody? Just put yourselves in the shoes of this poor waterbuck, sitting out and about in the middle of the darkness at night. You can't see the dam cam watching him. Things moving around in the dark. Brian, I've never come across the sort of rutting that you'll notice with impala or with red deer. It's just a dominance thing. It's got to do with dominance. It's the same as kudu. And Nyala will do a bit of a dance for dominance, but there definitely will be fighting if it comes down to it. But you don't see them going through a territorial display. Impalas go through a rut because they're displaying and they're securing a territory which they will fight for. Whereas waterbuck will secure a harem or a herd of females which they will physically fight for, and they'll follow that group around until they've mated with whoever they want to. But males will often be found in groups together where they'll compete, and you sometimes even find the younger males hanging out in an area with a bigger male like this to assist him in fending off rival males when the time comes. But you often will find big dominant males like this all on their own, and they don't take any nonsense. A few months ago down in Chitwa, we saw the wild dogs chasing a whole family of waterbuck, and a fellow like this just stood between the wild dogs and said, "Come on, you want this little family here? You're gonna have to go through me." And the dogs were like, "There's no chance. You're way too big and way too powerful." And it might seem quite unassuming, everybody, but these animals, when they want to headbutt and use those horns, they're very, very accurate, and there's a lot of power behind them. I mean, this fellow here being about, in my opinion, about as big as the waterbuck gets, he weighs close on 260, 270 kilograms. So that's just under 600 pounds, which is a very, very heavy animal, if you think about it. I mean, even the females get up to the regions of 150 to just over 200 kilograms, which is a very, very heavy animal. And that, together with 99 centimeter long horns and the ability to wield them, makes for a formidable adversary. I followed Tingana when he was walking past a waterbuck male, and he looked at the waterbuck male and he went, "Nope, I think I'll just keep walking." But so that leaves these guys prone to pretty much only lion as predation. But the youngsters, obviously predation is susceptible to many of the predators. But a big fella like this, just like a big giraffe, is left alone by all except a pride of lion.
We found our giraffe. I think it's the same one. Again, I could be wrong, but it just looks the same sort of light coloration. You can actually see that on the infrared, and also the size. Nice and petite. So my question is, can you hear them humming? And when I say them, there's another one over to the left as well. Davy will just swing the camera around. There you go. So technically, these two giraffes could be communicating. But are they? Who knows? I definitely can't hear them. I can hear all the insects. Are you guys chatting? There's two. Sorry, I didn't even see that one. Completely covered by the tree there. Can you see the legs? Can you see the legs? We see you. I am almost certain that they're all communicating. That'll add to their survival. Now, we heard lions. The Inkohumas were on Simbambili today, but again, sadly, we cannot go there. So they could easily be moving east. They could easily be moving on to Djuma. I don't know that, but the giraffes will definitely be able to hear them. It would be great to have the Inkohumas around again. They will still have night vision. You can see the tapetum lucidum reflection, the eye shine there, and they have fantastic hearing. So they're very aware of what's going on around them. They also have fantastic olfactory capabilities. But their vision will change at night time. This one's very petite. See how slim the neck is? In the males, much, much thicker. Tracy, we have done in the past. We've heard lion kills at night time. You can hear. It's mainly the prey you hear, actually, especially if it's buffalo. You hear the distress calls. You'll hear it happening. But I have to say, in my short time back here this week, I haven't seen any cats. Not one. The Talamatis haven't been on Central Djuma, and neither have the Inkohumas. But quarantine, the area that we're on right now, is a very productive area in both summer and winter, in all the seasons. And you will find that lots of activity happens here, especially in winter, when things are a little bit tougher, a little bit drier, and a little bit more stressful. And quarantine's a great area for prey species. So, of course, the number of prey will attract a large number of predators. So we're going to sit here a little while longer and enjoy the sounds of quarantine.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking.
dog walking outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees. Oh, that's a dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam ops might disagree.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
So just as the meerkats were going to bed, so the bat-eared foxes have come out of bed. They're just lying outside their burrow system. They've probably absorbed a little bit of the late afternoon sunlight, and they'll start thinking about getting moving. So stretching, yawning, and going out foraging. So a bat-eared fox. We're seeing 2 at the moment, but there was another set of ears that popped up at the back. So definitely 3. And these 3, or these bat-eared foxes, have actually taken over one of the Makala's dens. That where they are now was the very first den that we saw the entire Makala group as a family have their first group of pups once they'd got together as a group. And Makala means camel thorn tree because they're actually living under a camel thorn tree thicket there. Yeah, burrows are there for timeshare. If it's not occupied at the time, somebody else moves in, it becomes theirs for the time frame that they have it. They just heard 2 shelduck fly over, honking and making a noise, which is why they lifted their heads so quickly like that. So the bat-eared fox, summer season, most of the time during the day in the burrow where it's much nicer and cool. In the burrow, out there starts to yawn, so that's going to be starting to think about moving, yawning, stretching, and then go out foraging. And they will forage as a group, but they don't forage right next to each other. They tend to spread out over the open areas, and they use those big ears. So they listen for insects and bugs and beetles and grubs, anything scratching underneath the surface, easily about 30 centimeters down, and they'll actually got very sharp little claws, and they'll dig up that potential prey source. So mostly insectivores, but actually a large percentage of their diet is made up of termites, specifically harvested termites, which are not the ones that make big mounds. They're the ones that just sort of have the entire mound underneath the ground, and all you see on the surface is a little hole where they go in and out of. You can see there the sun has already gone down, so nice, heading into a nice evening. Very nice and pleasant, no wind, so it should be a very nice evening for nocturnal animals. So most of them we've been showing you different groups with pups. We don't see any with this group at the moment, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. but they also time their births so that it can match and marry the summer season when there's lots of food available for them. And then in the winter days, when it's a lot colder, we often see the bat-eared fox foraging right throughout the day because the insect sources are less, but the temperatures are nice and warm, so don't worry about those too much. One of the unique places to see bat-eared foxes is here at Tswalu, and it's been absolutely fantastic that you've been able to join us live this afternoon. So as I say, we do apologize for some of the tech issues, but those do come with trying to do a live broadcast. But thanks to all that participate, and always keep your questions coming. It helps us give you the information while we are out on drive. So you can join us tomorrow morning again at 6 a.m. Central African Time for your morning sunrise safari. Good night.